Most people misunderstand the B-17 Flying Fortress. They think it survived because it was strong. Armor, guns, legendary toughness. The bomber that limped home with half a wing missing and a story attached. That story is comforting. It is also wrong. Because the B-17 was not designed to survive. It was designed to be acceptable to lose. That distinction matters more than any gun turret. Let's be exact. The Boeing B-17 was real. It worked. It was deadly when it arrived over a target. But its true power was not what it did in the air. Its true power was what happened after it was destroyed. The B-17 did not change the war by being unstoppable. It changed the war by making losses irrelevant. Early daylight bombing nearly broke the U.S. Army Air Forces. Unescorted formations, German interceptors climbing straight into the bomber stream, flak batteries dialing in altitude with mechanical precision. Bombers burned, crews bailed out, entire formations vanished. By any traditional logic, the strategy should have been abandoned. Losses were unsustainable. Except they weren't. Because the system behind the B-17 was designed for loss from the beginning. The Flying Fortress was not an aircraft, it was a production decision. Boeing did not build a perfect bomber. They built a bomber that could be built by thousands of workers who had never seen an airplane before. Riveters trained in weeks, assembly lines stretched across states, parts shipped by rail like canned food. If a factory was bombed, another factory absorbed the load. If a worker quit, another replaced them. If a bomber was lost, the paperwork moved faster than the grief. The B-17 was modular before that word became fashionable. Wings, engines, control surfaces, gun mounts. Damage did not end a bomber's life. It created a logistics problem. And logistics was where America was strongest. German aircraft were engineered like watches. American aircraft were engineered like tractors. Tractors win wars. A B-17 was not fast. It was not agile. It was not advanced. It was predictable. And predictability is gold when you are scaling violence. A bomber that flies the same way every time can be flown by crews trained quickly. It can be repaired by mechanics with checklists instead of intuition. It can be planned around. War planners do not love brilliance, they love reliability. The B-17's defensive guns became legend. The Flying Fortress name stuck. But those guns were not meant to make the bomber invincible. They were meant to slow the kill, to force fighters to take risks, to break up attacks, to buy seconds. Seconds mattered, because seconds increased the chance that a damaged bomber limped home instead of vanishing. Not because that bomber was precious, but because crews were harder to replace than aluminum. And even that was temporary. By 1944, even trained crews became replaceable. The training pipeline expanded, standardized, optimized. Flying a B-17 became a process, not a calling. This is the part people avoid. The B-17 did not respect human life. It consumed it efficiently. A crew's job was not to survive. It was to complete missions until probability caught up. The math was brutal. Everyone knew it, and the system accepted it. The Germans understood this too late. They believed destroying bombers would stop bombing. They were correct tactically. They were wrong industrially. Every B-17 shot down created a report. That report triggered production orders. Those orders turned into airframes. Those airframes arrived over Germany weeks later, heavier, more numerous, better escorted.
German fighters could win the engagement, they could not win the replacement race. This is why the introduction of the P-51 Mustang did not change the philosophy, it completed it. The escort was not about protecting individual bombers, it was about protecting the system long enough for the system to overwhelm everything. The B-17 forced Germany to fight an industrial war in the air. Fighters diverted from the Eastern Front, guns pulled from cities, fuel burnt climbing instead of training. Every interception was expensive, every defense was a drain. And the bombers did not need to be accurate, they needed to be persistent. Precision bombing was the promise, area destruction was the result. Factories burned, rail yards shattered, power grids collapsed. Not because every bomb hit its target, but because bombs never stopped falling. The B-17 turned time into a weapon. Every day Germany remained under bombardment was a day its industry weakened. Every day America produced more bombers than Germany could destroy. This asymmetry was the real fortress. Not aluminum, not guns, not courage, scale. By 1944, the question was no longer, can Germany stop the bombers? It was, how long until Germany stops functioning? The B-17 was slow. That was an advantage. It forced formations to stay tight. It simplified navigation. It made timing predictable. Predictability again. The system loved predictability. Losses were factored in. Routes were planned around acceptable attrition. Entire missions were written off before takeoff, not emotionally, mathematically. This is what modern war looks like when stripped of speeches. Not glory, not heroism, throughput. The B-17 did not defeat Germany alone, but it made defeat inevitable. It attacked not soldiers, but production capacity. It targeted the thing wars actually run on. When people say the B-17 could take unbelievable punishment, they miss the point. It did not need to. It only needed to take enough punishment for the next one to arrive. The flying fortress was not brave, it was relentless. And that is why it worked. The lesson of the B-17 is uncomfortable. Wars are not won by the best machine. They are won by the machine that can be built, crewed, lost, and rebuilt without hesitation. The B-17 was not built to survive. It was built to make survival irrelevant. That is the truth behind the legend. And that is why once the system was in motion, the outcome was no longer negotiable. The bomber did not end the war. The factory did. The B-17 was just the shape that the factory gave to inevitability.